You are tuned into LocalMotion on 91.3 WVKR Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. I'm your host, Rita Ryan, here each and every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel and giving a like and a follow to the Facebook page under LocalMotion on 91.3 WVKR. I am going to play a track and then we're going to do some talking, which I try not to do too much here, unless, of course, we have an interview. So the unfortunate news came across on Friday that we lost Hudson Valley's own legendary bassist musician, John Regan, very suddenly on Friday. I think it was a shock to everyone. Me included. John was a guest here on LocalMotion in May of last year, and we just had such a beautiful conversation, and since then had kept in touch, and I just thought the world of him, and I still do think the world of him. One of the songs that I played when he was on the show here last May was a track that he played bass on with David Bowie and Mick Jagger, Dancing in the Street. And I am just going to read a few things that people read, but first I want to play this track. Here's what John Regan said about the track I'm about to play for you. Quote, "One experience that became a high watermark was getting a call from Nile Rodgers through my dear friend Rob Sabino to stop by and replace a bass part on the track that David Bowie and Mick Jagger had recorded for Live Aid, Dancing in the Street," he said. "That song had long been a favorite of mine, but when I arrived at the studio to find Mick Jagger greeting me, it was something I will never forget. My most vivid memory of that day was that it happened to be one of those rare occasions that the part that made the final recording was a first take for me. But as I was laying down the bass track, I could see Mick dancing around the studio, just getting into the music as if he were on stage," Regan added. "Powerful moment in time for me, and it hit home how much Jagger was moved by the power of the song and how sincere his love of music must be," unquote. And that was John Regan talking about this song. Let's take a listen. 91.3.
Okay, Tokyo, South America, Australia, France, Germany, UK.
Across the nation, a chance for folks to meet. Oh, laughing and singing and music swinging, dancing in the street, Philadelphia, PA. Baltimore, Messina. Don't forget the Motor City. On the streets of Brazil. Back in the USSR. Don't matter where you are. All we need is music, sweet music. There'll be music everywhere. There'll be swing and swaying, records playing, dancing in the street. Oh, it doesn't matter what you wear, just as long as you
91.3 WVKR Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. David Bowie and Mick Jagger, two of the voices that are probably most recognized in the music world, playing together the song, of course, called Dancing in the Street, with John Regan on bass. And I just read prior to playing that John's words about that beautiful, beautiful recording that he got to experience. So John Regan suddenly passed away this Friday. I'm going to read the obituary because it'll speak better than I can. John Michael Regan, 71, passed away Friday, April 7th, 2023, at his beloved home in the village of Wappingers Falls, New York. He was born October 28, 1951, in Poughkeepsie. John left his earthly body in the early afternoon of Good Friday to join his beloved parents, relatives, good friends, and bandmates in heaven. He got his wish of a hasty departure on one of the holiest of days. He leaves behind his wife of 48 years, Kathy, his daughter, Janess, son, Christopher, and grandchildren, Mackenzie and Evan. He also leaves behind his cherished kitty, Bella. John was extremely lucky to have had a wonderful career as a musician. He performed in many local bands before being asked to join Peter Frampton as his bass player in 1979, shortly after Christopher was born. He was fortunate to remain with Peter for over 30 years. He also formed bands, recorded on albums, and performed with many other artists, too numerous to mention here. John was a humble man who was forever grateful for his career. He was kind to his fans, many of whom became dear friends. He acknowledged their birthdays, anniversaries, births of their children, and many other special events in their lives. The outpouring of love from his friends and network has been outstanding. His biography of bands and recordings can be found on the internet or in one of the many interviews he was so happy to give. Though he traveled the world throughout his career, his favorite place was here at home with his family. John lived his entire life in this village and dedicated his services to the community over the decades as commissioner of Messier Park. John was incredibly proud of his Sicilian heritage and in 2013 received his Italian dual citizenship. He and Kathy visited multiple times over the years. It was always an experience that brought him incredible joy and peace. He was looking forward to visiting again soon and frequently dreamed of someday living there. John was also blessed to be chosen and recognized at the state capitol in 2015 as an Italian American of the Year. He also shared his love of his heritage by hosting an all-Italian radio show called Cafe Italia. Also close to John's heart was the carrying on the legacy of one of his dearest musical mentors through the Dr. Edwin A. Ulrich Charitable Trust, which benefits business, music, and arts education at Marist College and SUNY New Paltz, as well as the Bardavon Opera House, Meals on Wheels of Hyde Park, and Dutchess County Hospice and the Poughkeepsie Children's Home. John loved holidays and traditions, especially Christmas. He loved golf, Frank Sinatra, riding around with the top down on his convertible on a beautiful day, and gathering with friends at various local spots for their daily morning coffee and conversation. So many people have shared their happy memories of John, and we, his family, will treasure them all. John was predeceased by his parents, James and Teresa Regan, who he loved dearly. He was also predeceased by many of his close musician friends. We are sure they were there to greet him and are forming their own heavenly band. Two of John's favorite quotes were, "All that you can take with you is that which you've given away." And a heart isn't judged on how it loves, but how much it is loved by others. He gave the important things and was truly loved by many. What more can you ask for? Family will receive their friends and loved ones this Friday, April 14th from 4 to 8 p.m. In accordance with John's wishes, cremation has taken place as well as donation of his organs. A memorial celebration of John's life will take place at a later date. In lieu of flowers, donations can be made in John's Help to strayhelp.org or any animal rescue or shelter that is close to your heart. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the obituary for John Michael Regan. As I mentioned, my time here on the show with him last year was really something special, and it stayed with me throughout the whole year. And I'm just going to continue to read. I had posted on Facebook that I'd be paying tribute to John Regan today on the show, and asked for people that knew him well to just send me a memory of something that I could share with you, the listeners here of WVKR. This comes from my friend Fern Frankie, who knew John Skinny Regan for many years, decades. All right, so this comes from Fern. Quote, Will Lee and I started a conversation which evolved over the course of the evening. This was at the Falcon, July 10th of 2015. We talked about high school and how he hated it, but that I, in fact, remained in touch with many classmates. This discussion arose because I was expecting an old classmate of mine to join me at the club. When he arrived, he joined in the conversation with Will. Will noted he graduated in class of 1969. My friend and I responded that we were class of 1970, but that our school's class of 1969 included the well-respected bass player John Regan. As Will is a bassist, we thought that might ring with him. Will piped in enthusiastically. If John Regan had been in my class, I would have liked high school a lot more. My friend and I nodded to each other. Yeah, Skinny, we said. Any baby boomer in or around Wappingers Falls would have known John Regan as Skinny since his school days. After the show, Will chased us down and pulled us aside, explaining he must tell us a story connected to our earlier conversation. About 3 years earlier, after a show with Oz Noy and Anton Fig, a fella approached Will to compliment him on his playing to talk about music. And that guy was a musician, and to ask where else he could hear Will's work. Will explained that after 1,800 recordings, he'd lost track, but that he had been playing every night for 30 years on the David Letterman show. The fella's comment puzzled Will. Oh, the fellow said, I thought that was Skinny's gig. Will thought to himself, who's Skinny? Will left the conversation never knowing who or what that guy meant until the moment he heard us say, yeah, Skinny, in reference to Regan. Will's mystery was solved at last, and it only took 3 years. That was from Fern Frankie, remembering her friend John Regan. Bob Costello of the Costellos said this about John Regan, quote, When I was in high school, I would sneak my way into Easy Street, a great bar in Hyde Park, to see the Easy Street band that John played bass in. I would just stand in front of him and study every note he played. Finally, I mustered up the nerve to meet him. He was beyond kind to me. We talked a lot of bass over the time to follow. He also helped me buy my first bass, which was a Guild. He was just tremendous and had a huge influence on me. Thanks for doing this tribute to a Hudson Valley legend. Best always, Bob Costello from the Costellos. This was written by John's friend Tom Kelly. Quote, Fortunate I was to have known John my whole life. Over the years, John was always encouraging to me when I would encounter the rejection that all too often comes to those of us who write songs and novels. I plan to finally self-publish a novel and a CD of my songs this year. Hopeful I am that I can sit by his grave some night and sing one of those songs, unquote, by Tom Kelly. Vito Petrosito says, quote, As far as my blurb about John, a true gentleman, humble, yet one of the most capable musicians I've ever looked up to. He had this knack of making me feel special, like I was more famous, notable than he. Showed me endless respect and love. He's the best, helped me in many ways musically, but I think he helped me more as far as family and blessings. I could go on forever here. I think you get my point. That was by Vito Petrosito. John Slackman says about John Regan, quote, I was given the opportunity to film him at the Chance with Easy Street. Reggie sang his heart out. John played insane bass on Sledgehammer and everything with my friend Tony DiPaolo, whose loss of two friends so close in time is heartbreaking. John was a complete gentleman, unquote, by John Slackman. Tony Cicero says, quote, truly, it is unbelievable losing John is a great loss to the community in the music world. I first met John Regan when keyboardist and friend Peter Gallinari and I joined forces to organize the Hurricane Sandy benefit at the Chance Theater December 6th of 2012. John and guitarist Mark Hitt from Rat Race Choir were two of the first musicians of 40 who stepped up to contribute performances. John was instrumental in helping us organize this event that raised over $10,000 for the Red Cross towards Hurricane Sandy relief. We became friends right away, and in a few years later, he asked if I would create merchandise for his band 4 by Fate, to which he thought was very creative. He was a big fan of my boutique, as he would visit quite often, a few times a month, to see what new handmade products and new artists were featured. John was truly a man of compassion, not only through his music, but through his efforts of others, always inspiring and suggestive creative ideas. We had recently spoken on the phone quite at length regarding one of his early influences in music. He shared with me that he was a huge fan of the band Mountain as a young musician, and specifically Corky Lang, the drummer of Mountain, of whom I work for currently. We shared some good laughs during that phone call. He also spoke of Hudson Valley's guitarist Richie Scarlett, of whom he worked with Ace Frehley, Return of the Comet, and how he regarded Richie as a very talented guitarist. During one of my podcasts, I had the pleasure and honor to interview him. He shared specifically the amusing story of how he first met Keith Richards and Mick Jagger when he contributed to some Rolling Stones recordings. He loved and was truly grateful to do what he did in his career, from Frampton to his latest project, and all the people he worked with and met along the way. Unquote. That was by Tony Cicero. Last, but certainly not least, from Peter Frampton, quote, there might only be a handful, if that, of people who come into your world and truly enrich your life. I have lost one of my closest buddies. He certainly enriched my life because of the person and the great player he was. John Regan was the best of us. He went out of his way to help people when things weren't going right. It didn't matter who you were, prince or pauper. I know there are many of you out there who knew him. He was a friend to all, always musically inspiring, and one of the funniest people on the planet. My thoughts are with his wife, Kathy Merring Regan, his children, Christopher and Janess, and his grandchildren. I love you, my brother. You will be missed by many. Rest in peace. Unquote. And that comes from Peter Frampton. Yeah. I encourage anyone that wants to hear John's voice. You certainly have a lot on YouTube that you can listen to by him. The interview that he and I hosted is uploaded on the LocalMotion Facebook page, and you can definitely take a listen to that. It's a great, in-depth, detailed interview. It's almost an hour long, and I just want to say thank you to John for being the person that he is, that he was, and how incredible of a life he lived. John was part of Ace Frehley's band, Frehley's Comet. He recorded with Peter Frampton and spent 30 years with him. He also recorded with John Waite, the Rolling Stones, Stephen Stills, Dave Edmunds, Robin Trower, Scandal, Billy Idol, David Bowie, and David Lee Roth. And he also recorded locally here with the Easy Street Band, which began in the early 1970s. He was part of the band 4 by Fate, and which saw him reunite with Fraley's Comet co-frontman Todd Howarth. He also was starting a new project, and the first rehearsal was supposed to be tomorrow. After working with both Stephen Stills and David Crosby, John was moved to return to some of that classic music which he so enjoyed during that time with those iconic figures, especially after David Crosby's passing. John started putting together Deja Vu all over again to pay homage to his compadres. The first rehearsal was supposed to be tomorrow, and this group included many veterans of the Hudson Valley, including Vito Petrosito, Eric Parker, Jimmy McElliott, Jason Gizer, Tom Ayers. I'm just going to keep playing music. Let's play 2 more tracks that John played on, and then we'll do a ticket giveaway, and we'll keep the show flowing here as John would want us to. You'll all recognize this. Mr. John Regan played bass with this man for 30 years. Let's take a listen right now. 91.3 WVKR.
Thank you. Shadows grow so long before my eyes, and they're moving across the page. Suddenly the day turns into night, far away from the city. But don't hesitate, 'cause your love won't wait. Hey, hey, hey. Ooh, baby, I love you every day. Wanna tell you I love you every day. Wanna be with you night and day. Hey, hey, hey. Moon appears to shine at the sky with the help of some firefly. Wonder how they have the power to shine, shine, shine. I can see them under the pine, but don't hesitate, 'cause your love won't wait. Hey, ooh, baby, I love you
91.3 WVKR, Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. You all know that song. I don't have to tell you, but I will. Peter Frampton, Frampton Comes Alive, Baby, I Love Your Way, featuring Mr. John Regan on bass. And yeah, if you missed part of what we said or want to hear it again about all the things that people left to say about John, I'm recording this. I'm uploading it later, and you can just come to the LocalMotion Facebook page or YouTube channel and take a listen to it further. I'll play another track if I can later in the show. Otherwise, if I can't, next week, I'll spin another track. I also want to say that we lost a second Hudson Valley legendary musician, the avant-garde jazz musician and composer Carl Berger. Passed away on Sunday. He co-founded Creative Music Studio in Woodstock with his wife Ingrid Sertzo and the late Ornette Coleman. He worked with Don Cherry, Lee Kunitz, Sam Rivers, and Pharoah Sanders. He was recognized as a maestro by musicians, and he was really, truly a master. Mr. Carl Berger also passed away since I was last on air. Right now, we're going to do a ticket giveaway. It's 4:40. You are tuned into LocalMotion. I'm your host, Rita Ryan, here each and every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m., bringing you music of the Hudson Valley. We're going to do a ticket giveaway. This is a special event at the Bardavon in Poughkeepsie. Just be a caller. Please be able to go to the show. Don't just call to win a ticket and not be able to go. The event is happening Sunday, April 30th in the afternoon at 3 p.m. right here in Poughkeepsie at the Bardavon Theater. Cheetah Rivera in conversation with Harvey Fierstein. Broadway legend and national treasure Cheetah Rivera, multi-Tony Award winner, Kennedy Center honoree, and recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, has taken no prisoners on stage or screen for 7 decades. From her trailblazing performance as the original Anita in West Side Story, for which she tapped her own Puerto Rican roots, to her haunting 2015 star return in The Visit, Cheetah has proven to be much more than just a captivating dancer, singer, and actress beloved by audience and casts alike. This Broadway legend will talk with Harvey Fierstein about her incomparable life both on stage and behind the curtain. Cheetah Rivera is one of the most nominated performers in Tony Award history, having earned 10 nominations. She won twice and received the 2018 Special Tony Award for Lifetime Achievement in Theater. Harvey Fierstein is the Tony Award-winning author of Torch Song Trilogy and La Cage aux Folles. I know I'm not saying that right. His other theater writings include Kinky Boots, Newsies, Casa Valentina, all Tony nominated. A Catered Affair, 12 Drama Desk nominations, and Bella Bella. His theater performances include Torch Song Trilogy and Hairspray. He also appeared in the film Mrs. Doubtfire, The Good Wife, and Cheers. Harvey Fierstein's memoir, I Was Better Last Night, will be available for purchase at this event. If you would like to see this conversation with Cheetah Rivera and Harvey Fierstein, give us a call here right now. You and a guest will be able to go. The phone number here is 845-437-7178. Again, the number here, 845-437-7178. The event is Sunday, April 30 at 3 p.m. at the Bardavon. So a very nice Sunday afternoon event. If you'd like to go, 845-437-7178. You and a lucky friend of yours can go see this amazing event happening at Bardavon. You can get more info at bardavon.org. And right now, the next 2 performers that I'll be playing will be performing at Town Crier this Saturday. Let's start it off with Cindy Cashdollar here on 91.3 WVKR.
There's a bright side somewhere. There's a bright side somewhere. Let's not rest until we find it. There's a bright side somewhere. There's more joy somewhere. There's more joy somewhere. Let's not rest until we find it. There's more joy somewhere. And there's more peace somewhere. There's more peace somewhere. Let's not rest until we find it. There's more peace somewhere. I said there's more love somewhere. But let's not rest until we find it. There's more love somewhere. Side somewhere. There's a bright side somewhere. Let's not rest until we find it. There's a bright side somewhere. There's a bright side somewhere.
91.3 WVKR, the legendary Happy Traum, his latest release called There's a Bright Side Somewhere. And that was the title track from that CD. Joining Happy on this particular track was Larry Campbell on mandolin, Zach Dejakian, Eugene Ruffalo, and Amy Helm on vocals. We also heard Cindy Cashdaller, her latest, Waltz for Abilene. We heard Foggy Mount Rock featuring Albert Lee. Cindy Cashdaller on lap steel, Albert Lee guitar, Will McGregor bass, Jason Harrison Smith drums, Harvey Citron additional guitar. This was recorded up in Buffalo, New York, with additional recording done by Dave Cook locally here at Area 52 Studios in Saugerties. Cindy Cashdaller and her friend Happy Traum are joining forces for a show this Saturday night. They're calling it Super Folk, an evening with Happy Traum, Freebo, Alice Howe, Cindy Cashdaller, and Jerry Morada. Tickets available at towncrier.com. That's town spelled with an E, crier.com. The show is happening for Saturday night at Town Crier. It's going to be a really, really great show. Legendary players there. And another fun show happening tomorrow night will be in Woodstock at Colony with Rhett Miller of the Old 97s. He was a guest here on the show not that long ago, and let's play a track of his right now on 91.3. And stay tuned. The 5 o'clock hour is getting closer and closer, and we will be having guest Martin Sexton call in just after 5 o'clock. And I'm a huge fan of Martin, so it's going to be a great conversation. We'll stay tuned for that. But right now, let's take a listen to Rhett Miller here on 91.3.
Richard Wagner's letters to his lover Matilda were a mess. He should have quit before he had written the address. They made love on the mezzanine. Her husband was his friend. Vienna in a fugue, stay working on a thing that when he finished it exploding words. Our love surpassed, our love so fast. Our love's all wrong, our love goes on and on. Our love became our love by name. When I wrote it to you in a song, our love goes on and on. Our love, our love. Cocking his letters to his lover, Milena was alive, but he was waiting for a love that never would arrive. Their rendezvous was singular, her husband was his friend. She is a living fire, she is a reason to live. She is killing me, burning only for him. I'll spend my whole life loving her, a heart exploding words. Our love surpassed, our love so fast. Our love's all wrong, our love goes on and on. Our love became our love by name. When I wrote it to you in a song, our love goes on and on. Our love, our love, our love, our love. Our love surpassed, our love so fast. Our love's all wrong, our love goes on and on. Our love became our love by name. When I wrote it to you in a song, our love goes on and on. Our love, 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 our love.
If you hide your love and no one can find it, not even you, what good does it do? Who could possibly deny a love you cannot hide, worthless treasure you cannot measure? If you tell someone your love is all but gone, after all this time you continue to deny, how could they possibly believe you once swore it on your sleeve? Worthless treasure no one can measure. If you bury your heart, your beautiful heart, that's the worst part. Worthless treasure. If you bury your heart, your beautiful heart, that's the worst part. Worthless treasure. If you really want to keep it to yourself, who you save it for? Is it somebody else? I found it so hard to believe you once swore it on your sleeve. Worthless treasure, worthless treasure. If you bury your heart, your beautiful heart, that's the worst part. had your heart, your beautiful heart. If you had your heart, your beautiful heart, worthless treasure, worthless treasure, worthless treasure, worthless treasure.
91.3 WVKR. Stephen Clare, the latest album called To the Trees. The track we just heard, Worthless Treasure. Track number 1 from this